And I'm joined by Simon from Molly Karloff. How are you keeping, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, all things considered.
Yeah.
A few people will just brush over what's going on because otherwise it's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, probably a good idea.
So you guys are all set to release, as she said. You're releasing it in with all proceeds going to Oxfordshire Mind, mate. That's an absolutely fantastic cause. What made you decide to do a single A Native Mind?
Well, I mean, most people that I know, myself included, have sort of suffered from various sort of mental health issues over. I think it's a thing that goes with the whole music industry, that lots of musicians are in a position where they're probably more susceptible than others. I don't know. That's just me surmising. But what is true is that the lockdowns definitely made mental health for a lot of people a lot worse. And at the same time, it's almost like a double whammy. Because of lockdown, charities can't raise the funds like they used to. So
No, they can't, no.
the people like Mind, I know of people that have turned to the crisis lines that Mind run, and in the time when people need it most, the charities are probably least able to deliver the services that they want to, because they can't raise the funds that they would normally be able to raise if it were any other time of any other circumstances, not in the middle of a pandemic. So it just made sense. We had a chat amongst us in the band, and of all the things that a band can do to kind of raise money for a charity, this seemed like the obvious thing. The lyrics of the song fit with the cause that we're going for. So it was almost like everything came aligned, and you'd be an idiot not to do it. So and it wasn't difficult to pick Mind. It didn't require a lot of pondering over, put it that way. It was just like we should do this. It's been obvious for a while that charities are suffering, people's mental health suffering. Let's do something to kind of help that out, that was the reason why.
Yeah, no, fair play. I mean, like you say, Mind is a great charity. Like yourself, I've had my battles with mental health. I've had friends who've sadly lost their battles with mental health and ended up taking their own lives. So anything like that is blinding to do. Anyway, like you can support a charity like that. And obviously, she said has obviously got typical topical subject matter to coincide, obviously, with the charity. And the reason,
the lyrics kind of touch on the whole, I guess you'd call it, society pressures. People trying to make something of themselves. That's true whether it's in the music industry or any other industry that you work in. People are trying to progress their careers. They're stretching themselves and pushing themselves. They don't want to stay where they are. There's pressure of society to move forward, and all of those things kind of combine and exacerbate the situation. And it shouldn't really be any surprise that there are problems in society with people's mental health, and then along comes a pandemic. Just to make it. Oh, you've got a problem there. We'll have this as well. It's it's an obvious thing to do to me. So,
am I right in thinking that Romesh I always get his surname name.
Romesh Dodangoda, we got him to mix our last single, Do It Again.
Because he worked on your previous single, didn't he?
We're sort of, I say between the four walls. I've just realised that this is not between the four walls at all, because it's going to get broadcast. But we're having discussions, and they're no further forward than that, about using him for the upcoming album.
Oh, cool.
Whether that happens or not, of course, is a different matter, because we're still trying to sort of get studio and things sorted out. But we used him for the last single, and it just made sense to do the same for She Said. The original version of She Said was released over a year ago, and like a lot of things in the music industry, it's kind of fleeting, and people forget about what you did. All they know about is what you're doing now,
sure.
And just the fact that the song was around and what was going on with the pandemic and mental health, and it just kind of, why, if we'd been able to see into the future, we would have kept that song and released it now, in the first place. But you don't want to just release the song as it is. So we've got Romesh to mix that again for us. And again, with hindsight, I wish we'd had him mix the thing originally. So I think it does sound. The quality of the production on it is sort of light years ahead as well. So we used him for the last one, and it made sense to use him for this one as well. So yeah.
I mean, like you said, I had your Supernaturalization EP, fantastic EP by the way, man. And then obviously when press release for this came through, I got sent this mix of She Said, and like you say, Romesh is, for want of a better term, rock and roll fairy dust on it. It does seem to have
you can only really tell, can't you, when you listen to the two versions back to back.
Yeah.
And it's not like
it's not like the version on the EP is rubbish either, because it's not.
No, it's not like you'd go, oh, the previous version, thank God someone fixed this because it was a nightmare. Yeah. It's not like that. It's
no one bit.
If you hadn't heard the Romesh mix, you would never go, oh yeah, that needs doing. It's not like it needed doing in the first place. It was just, it kind of came about through our PR guy, and it was more a case of, okay, well, let's see what he can do. Not really expecting anything, because of course, if something's already good, how much better can it be? And I was surprised when it came back. The difference in the mixes, both on. Well, he's done the same with Do It Again. You listen to the EP version of Do It Again versus the single version of Do It Again. You can see the difference there, and I think it's even more stark on this single as well, on She Said. So I think he's done a really good job.
Yeah, he has. I mean, he obviously worked with some fantastic people. He's worked with yourselves, like you say. He's worked with Motorhead and
Bullet for My Valentine. He did the last. I forget the names now. Bring Me the Horizon. I think he did the last. Did you do the last two albums? I know he did the last album that they were nominated for. He's worked with a few big names, and not that we think we're a really big name, but if the opportunity comes up for someone like that to work on your material, that why would you not do that? So I'm glad we did. Yeah.
Other than sort of putting his magic on it as such, when you worked with him previously, did you get a feeling that he wanted to tweak anything at all, or was it just a case of adding his magic to it as such?
Well, we didn't really have too much of this. I mean, he listened to the songs and said, yeah, he could do something. Because of, if it was sort of anyone else, I probably would have given, put my two penny worth in and said, what it was that I want to do and the kind of sound we're looking for and all that sort of thing. What we didn't do was any of that. We kind of left Romesh to basically, here's the track, not do your worst, but do what you think it needs to do. He's never seen us live, but he's actually captured the live sound that we have better. The guitar tone is closer to what comes out live than is on the EP. One of the comments from sort of old, diehard fans who've been around since the beginning was that it didn't sound as heavy as we do sound live. Which I was fine with. You don't want everything to be a carbon copy of what you do live anyway. But the remixes that he's put together, I think capture that more. And it's. I guess it's fair to say he's kind of put a bit of polish and, like you said, fairy dust on it. But that doesn't really. It's small changes that make quite a big difference, and it's. Yeah, it's only really, you can only really understand it when you listen to them back to back. So no, we didn't give him any guidance at all. He just kind of, did his thing, and when it came back, it was like, wow. We didn't even go back to him for to change everything either. Quite often with mixes and production work, especially if it's done remotely, you'll get multiple different versions that you ask for. Can this be tweaked? Can that be changed? And that didn't happen at all with Romesh. It was literally the first thing that came back. It was like, wow, so yeah, I've got no comment. There's nothing that I can improve here. So yeah. It was a lot better than I was expecting, to be in all honesty, because I suppose because if you've got something that you think is already, if you've gone with someone and you've gone, oh look, can you fix this mix is really bad, we're not happy with the production work, can you do something? Then of course you would expect some like a drastic change, but we weren't in that position. It was more of this opportunity came up, okay, let's see what he can do, not really expecting anything great and wonderful, and what came back was great and wonderful. So yeah, it was a big surprise. I'm gonna be sitting here. It's like I'll ask Romesh for some commission now for picking up.
So go back to single. Obviously, all the proceeds are going to Mind, as we say. As obviously as we say. So, are you releasing physical copies, or is it just download only, or how?
It's just download only and streaming. So the people can donate, or they can download. People already have started donating, and really, every pound counts. If everyone that follows us on Facebook and Instagram and all the other social media platforms that we're on, if everyone just donated, I don't know, even 50 pence, we would raise a good few thousand for Mind. So whether that's through donating now before the launch, or whether it's I don't know, sticking the song on repeat on Spotify so that you build up the streaming royalties, or just buying the single, because that'd be £1. Fair people have donated more than that in just direct donations, but. There's no physical copy. If we had produced physical copies, then there's all the manufacturing costs to recoup as well. And it's not really that. I don't think producing physical copies for singles anyway, in any other circumstances anyway, makes sense. I don't know that anyone does that anymore. So singles, as far as I know, as far as I've seen for many years, have just been digital only. In fact, you still see some people releasing albums as digital only. We wouldn't do that. I think that sort of thing. There's a lot of people around that want physical copies, vinyl or CD. But this is just digital only, streaming or download. And 100% of the royalties are all going to Mind. So yeah, it should be good.
So the download, is that direct from your website then, or is it?
You can download direct from. It'll be everywhere. So it'll be on Amazon, on Spotify, Apple Music. Obviously, with Apple, you can download it or just stream it. What people do is kind of up to them. I don't know how many streams equal one download. I haven't even looked into that, to be honest.
I ain't got a clue either.
I think. When we look at the royalty statements that come through, one stream equals less than half a penny, I think, in royalties.
Wow.
If you stream it 200 times, you might get close to the cost of just downloading it. But it'll be everywhere. So it'll be on all of the streaming platforms, and most of those platforms will also allow you to. So Google Music, I think you can is it Google Play or whatever it's called. I'm an Apple user, so I'm not really sure, but you can just download the single for 99p or 99 cents or whatever it is, and the same with Apple and Amazon and all the others. Of course, you can stream it as well when it comes out. So
cool. Well, obviously we're in this interview the day of launch of the single itself, so when we're airing this interview on the show, I'll post all the various links and everything up on our social media, so people can just have a quick look on the radio show page and then go download it and support you guys supporting the cause and everything else.
Yeah, cool.
So as I was saying, sort of touching it earlier, you were a bit of discovery for me last year, to be honest, mate. I hadn't heard of you previously until I got the supernaturalization promo stuff sent to me. obviously it was up my street, otherwise I wouldn't be talking to you. Simple as that.
Yeah.
But for anyone who may not be aware of you guys yet, did you want to give them a bit of a band history and how long you guys been going and how you got together, that kind of thing?
So the current lineup, there's been a fair few lineup changes. So it's not a band where we all grew up together or anything like that. I've been in lots of bands like that before. But what has happened with this current lineup is we've all kind of just clicked in together. The writing process, rehearsals, it's super efficient. Everything just clicks together. It's almost like we're all sort of telepathic. None of us have to say anything to the others during the writing process. Everyone just kind of comes up with, Dan will come up with the best bass line. Joey will always bring the best drum line, and everything just kind of fits together. The band didn't kind of start like that. We've had a few. I think we released the first EP in, was it September 2018? I think it was. Okay. We had previously been going before that, but for various, which I won't bore you with the details, various reasons, we didn't kind of get off the ground. So it took a while to get things together, and then finally release the EP that had been recorded quite some time before that. That first EP was recorded live, so we literally went into the studio, mic'd everyone up, and we all played together. So we didn't track instruments individually like you normally would. We were trying to, I guess back then we were probably a little bit more punky, I guess, and we wanted to try and capture that sort of raw live feel, and the only way of really doing that is to record it live as well. So we didn't play to a click track, we didn't do anything, and so the sound between the first EP and the second EP is obviously very, very different, because the second EP is tracked in the more traditional way. I say traditional because doing it live is how they started off doing it back in the 1920s, whenever they first started recording things. But what people consider now the traditional way of recording instruments individually and tracking it and then mixing it together. That's what we did on the second EP, which we didn't do on the first. So the recording process was completely different between the two. We all live locally, so we're all sort of dotted around Oxfordshire, and Oxford's kind of in the middle. We're all, I don't know, half an hour's drive from each other. Okay. So we kind of know each other all from. I was introduced to Dan through a kind of mutual friend. Sam was Dan's. Dan was in a previous band who are also based around Oxford. It's all very incestuous around here. Everyone's been in everyone else's bands at various points.
Same around here, mate. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, there's lots of people that you know of that you don't know that at some point in the future you might be in a band with them. So Dan was he was in another band, and I don't know the details, but he wasn't, and his name was mentioned by Sam, who used to be the manager of his old band. So we were introduced that way. We ended up sort of meeting up actually in London at a love-hate gig. Jizzy Pearl was playing, and basically, cut a long story short, he ended up joining the band through that. And then Joey, we kind of knew of him because he's got another band he does on the side, Starbelly, and in that band he does vocals and guitar. So I didn't actually know that he was a drummer, and then I forget how we came to be talking about it, but we mentioned that we were looking for another drummer, and he was like, "Oh, well, I play drums." And you can't go, really. Yeah, he's actually a shit hot drummer. So yeah, we all kind of, I knew of both Dan and Joey beforehand. We didn't sort of know each other particularly well, but once we sort of got together in the same room, as Joey put it, when we were together in the room, because there was a period where Dan couldn't play, so we were using sort of session players for a while, and when it was us three, it just clicked. As Joey's called it, it was a dream team. It was obvious when you were together that there was there wasn't any comments like, oh, can you try playing it this way, or can you try and do that, can you change that a bit? Those conversations are actually quite normal in a rehearsal room, and anyone who's in a band will be familiar with that kind of process. How it works at the moment, that doesn't even need to happen. There is nothing like that happens. It's literally, for example, I'll come in with a riff or a melody or something, and everyone just kind of jams it. There's never been a time where I've had to say, can you change that? Or Joey suggests, that just those conversations don't seem to happen, because what everyone kind of brings to the table just fits really, really well.
Rare to find, man.
Yeah, it's a chance happening. We realise it's rare, but that's also the case when we play live. Although sometimes, a lot of bands and previous bands I've been in, if you do things like audience participation, that sort of thing, it's generally choreographed beforehand. As a band that you're going to go into that part in the set. That's the bit in the set where you kind of. But where we are at the moment, we could literally wing it, and no one would be any the wiser. They would just. It's bizarre. It's like everyone's kind of telepathically linked. And I don't think I've had that in a band with every single member ever, to be honest. So, it is quite exciting the way the writing's going for the album, or is gone, because we're still writing and stuff. Yeah. But songs are just coming out left, right, and centre, and it's more a case of what do we not include on the album than what do we include. So, that's how we met, and that's how we work. Sound wise, I don't know how we categorize it. If you can see comments sometimes when people listen to one of our songs, they'll say, "Oh, that sounds a bit like this," or "That sounds like that." But then each song on the EP, I think, has got a different vibe, different feel. There's not a certain sort of what do you call it? There's not a certain method or pattern that kind of repeats across different songs. Supernaturalation, for example, is very different from She Said, which is also completely different from The Other Side. So The Other Side's kind of got a bit of a sort of funky blues kind of feel. Supernaturalation is completely, I don't even know how that you describe that. But they're all, I guess the only common thing in our sound is there's riffs. It's got to be kind of catchy, sort of sing-along choruses, that kind of thing. That's not even like deliberate. That kind of just comes out. So most of our songs have kind of been that way. But yeah, that's not a very quick description, is it, of the band?
It's all good, mate. It's all good. But like you say, with a power trio like yourself, it's very easy to spot normally. Well, it is easy to spot with a power trio if there was a gap, if anyone wasn't pulling rank. You can hear it a mile off. In 5 pieces, 4 pieces, you've got 2 guitars there, you can kind of...
Yeah, you're right.
With power trio, you can't. And I don't hear anyone not pulling their weight on the EP, on the 2 singles, obviously the remixes. And I've not seen you guys live yet. I was hoping to catch you obviously last year across things, but given the way of the world, I didn't get to. So I'm looking forward to catching you guys live eventually, mate.
Yeah, I mean, live. The only downside of us being a trio is that I, as well as being the guitarist and the vocalist, I'm kind of tied to the mic stand. And I resist using one of those Britney Spears
Madonna mics.
Madonna mics, yeah. But it's still, Dan will take up the rest of the stage, however big the stage is, or small for that matter, because we play some places with some pretty small stages. He will take that up. And Joey's always a spectacle behind the drums. I don't get to see much of that because my back's to him usually, but there's always stuff going on the stage. And the everyone pulling rank in the studio is also the case live as well. Everyone's doing their thing, and it's everyone kind of just fits. I think you're right. It's with a 4 or 5 piece, you can usually forgive one person. There's usually one person who likes to sit at the back of the stage and stare at their shoes, you know. So, and not sort of join in. And there's actually quite a lot of people like that who are musicians, but it's actually quite hard. Most musicians are kind of introverted, and so actually being on a stage is kind of an alien environment for most people. But you're afforded the ability to do that just because you're put in a contrived situation, and that's what you've got to do in that situation. And once you're used to it, you know, if you ever see any sort of young sort of teenage bands and they're doing their first couple of gigs, once you're used to that and you get past those, you know, initial nerves, you then start getting into doing something that the average introvert wouldn't normally do. But yeah, we haven't got any of those in the band, luckily. And in a 3-piece, like you say, there's no place to hide.
No.
But yeah, it's a good thing. You know, look, I think we've had the comment that from numerous times that you don't sound like a 3-piece; it sounds like a 4 or 5-piece band.
Such a full of sound for a 3-piece.
Yeah, just because of the noise we make. And yeah, I am a noisy bastard, but you know, it's a good thing, I suppose.
Oh, definitely, man, definitely. Well, you guys have just been. When was it that you got signed to Off Your Records?
That's a recent thing. So that's literally just happened.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, we've signed a 2-album deal with them. So the next album is going to be put out through Off Your Rocker. Yeah, that kind of came about by accident as well, because we were already signed to another label, and I think we probably would have carried on with that if nothing else had sort of come along, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, obviously Off Your Rocker are affiliated with Hard Rock Hell and all of that. So we kind of knew of the guys because we'd been booked on to various Hard Rock Hell festivals, which obviously didn't happen in the end. Yeah. There's still one, I think, that's supposed to be happening in November. Fingers crossed that happens. But so we knew of the guys behind HRH and the label, and yeah, just one thing led to another, one discussion, and it was like, well, there was sort of tentative conversations along, how would you feel about working together, and it kind of sort of grew from there. So yeah, it wasn't that anyone kind of went out looking for one thing or another. It's just one of those things that just kind of happened organically, I think. So yeah, they seem like a good bunch of guys. We're on the same page. They're there to kind of give us the support that we're looking for. So yeah, it's all good. Quite excited about that. It's just really annoying that it's just we're in the middle of the pandemic, because you can't jump into the studio now and do it. So yeah, literally as soon as we're allowed, we're in the studio and start tracking and getting something out as soon as we can.
So you sort of touched on the album a little bit. Is it all written and ready to sort of record as such, or are you guys?
Yeah, I mean, because we're a bit, it is all written. There's more than an album's worth of material written. So we're currently deciding, do we keep this track? With each track, it's like, are we going to keep this or not? And some of them may well go on to, like, I don't know, a bonus tracks, may get pushed onto the second album. We haven't really decided what we're doing with all the material yet, because when we write material, we already go through the process of, we call it our "would you buy it" rule, where we kind of pretend we record it after the first sort of writing session, and then we send it around on WhatsApp or whatever amongst us, and then listen to it the next day. And the question you ask yourself is, if we knew that this wasn't us playing and it was up to broadcast quality production, and you heard it on the radio, would you buy it? And unless everyone answers unanimously, yes, we all would, because obviously each of the three of us have all got slightly different opinions and we're into slightly different music. So all of us have to kind of go, yes, we're all into it, because then I think that is a better reflection, or the best reflection you can possibly have in a 3-piece. of what the outside world might view, how they might view your song. And unless everyone goes, yes, we'll keep it as it is, then it gets dumped. Sometimes there's a track where don't like it, but I like that bit in the song, and so we had a song recently, a while back actually, which we dumped, but there was always, we liked that one riff in there, and that's been resurrected for a song. So before we even get to the point of going into a studio, we've already gone through that process. So what we're doing at the moment is more a case of all these songs that we've already given the green light to. Yes, we would buy them. Which ones are the best ones to put on the album? Okay. So yeah, it's because we want to release it on vinyl as well as CD. You're kind of limited with the vinyl to how many songs you can get on there, and the accepted level is 10 tracks of around sort of each one sort of 4 minutes ish in length. If there's more than that and we kind of feel like we should, then I don't know. I honestly don't know what we're going to do with the rest of it. It may just get pushed onto another album or released as bonus material or something else. But quite a few of them people will have heard live, because we do test stuff out live. Obviously at the moment with the pandemic and not gigging, there's a fair few tracks that people haven't heard because we haven't been able to play them. So so you are kind of going at it a little bit more blind than you would, because normally you kind of judge the audience reaction as to whether, that one should definitely go on there because the crowd go mental when we play that one.
People's reaction to it. And
exactly. And sometimes the way people react, they react really positively to songs that you weren't expecting them to, and sometimes your favourite song, they kind of stand going. So yeah, we haven't been able to do that. So there is a bit of, nervousness about, well, not nervousness, but intrepidation about whether people are going to like the material, which I suppose is true for every band, I guess. But yeah, it's all to all intents and purposes, it's all done. It's just a question of getting into the studio, and just tracking stuff really, and then sort of handing it over to the Off You Rocker guys and going, what do you think? Yeah.
Have you got an end date for the album in mind as yet, or are you with everything the way it is, playing it by ear a bit?
Yeah, so we were supposed to release the album. This is how far behind we are. We were supposed to release the album towards the end of last year, and obviously that didn't happen. So we're now currently working a year behind schedule. So we're hoping around August, September of this year. But for what it's worth, that might move. It all depends on when we get into a studio to actually start tracking. We could start tracking by doing some stuff ourselves, which we have done. But I'm not a sound engineer. I wish I'd paid more attention all the times I've been in a studio. But you don't want to do something half-assed yourself and ruin the quality of it. So ultimately, it depends on us getting into the studio. As soon as we've got that done, then even if heaven forbid another pandemic came along, whatever. Once it's tracked, you can then kind of do the rest of it remotely. But the tracking stuff at the moment is what's kind of holding us up. So
fair play. So other than the album, the single, what is the plans for the rest of the year? Have you got any? Is it, again, playing by ear because of everything going on, or?
It really is playing by ear, in all honesty.
Fair enough.
We after the release of Supernaturalation, we had a tour lined up, which was going to be in two halves. So there was the first part of the tour, which was already booked up. There was about, I don't know, there was like less than 20 dates. There was 18, 19, maybe 20 dates. And the second half of the tour was to cover the areas that we hadn't done with the first half, like Scotland, and some of the more further north places that we haven't gone. So I think on the first half of the tour, the furthest north we went or was booked into was Manchester.
Okay.
So everything kind of north of there was for the second half of the tour. With the release of an album, the plan would be to do that again. To tour the thing. That's the plan for what it's worth. It's obviously not a very set in stone plan because we haven't even been into the studio. I suppose if they lifted restrictions tomorrow, we could go out and start, gigging again and maybe do the tour that didn't happen last year. But we're at a point where it's like, hey, well, people have heard the EP. We flogged it to death all over social media. So let's get an album done and kind of then go and tour, with loads of material that people already know and see where it goes from there. So plans wise, who knows? How long is a piece of string? I guess is the answer to that one.
Yeah, especially at the minute, mate. So at the beginning of the interview, we're going to play She Said, but at the end of the interview, what song of yours would you like us to air the interview out on?
I guess Supernaturalation. That was going to be our single when we launched the EP, but the record company decided otherwise.
Okay.
It's the title track of the EP, and it kind of seemed like the obvious choice. And amongst sort of close friends and family, that was the one everyone thought, yeah, that's a track that would get me into listening to the band if I heard it on the radio.
Yeah.
And as it's transpired, that's never been the case. Because the record company and our PR guy decided that She Said should go first, and then for some reason Do It Again was the second one. So I personally, that off the track, I think that's my favourite if I had to pick a favourite. So I think Supernaturalation would be there.
All right, man. Well, we'll go with that. Well, thanks for your time, Simon, man. It's been cool.
Unless you have any other, unless you want something else. I mean, you're perfectly free to go and play another one if you think there's another one.
No, to be fair, track one of the EP, Supernaturalation. It was the first one I listened to when I got the EP sent across to me, and it punched me in the gut. So let's go with it.
Yeah, that was the whole point. That was the first one on the EP. It's the title track. It's called the EP after the title track, and punch everyone in the gut when they first put it on, and then record company didn't want to release that as a single. So what can you say? Let's do that. Go with She Said at the start, and then Supernaturalation at the end. So punch her in the guts at the end of the interview.
Yeah. I want to forget you then.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, buddy. It's been good to talk to you. Cheers, Simon, mate.
No worries, mate.
Cheers, pal.
See you later.